Hi guys, today I just want to take a quick look at a little project that I recently updated, but I don't want to walk through the project just to talk about what it is. And basically, it's just a joke site. And the reason I wanted to talk about this particular site is because it does have some interesting ways of using GitHub Actions as well as the integrations that that has with an Azure Static Web App. So I just want to walk through kind of the architecture of this whole little project and then talk about the implications of it and how it works for things like modern application development and that kind of thing. Anyways, it was more of a project that I use for just learning, and I've worked on this over the years as just a way to explore different things and try things out. But as a way of just introducing the project and talking through what I've learned, I just felt like I would do a video on that, and we'll look at the pieces in the GitHub repo, which is a public repo, and then also the output from it, which is a website that you can then run on Azure Static Web Apps. And we'll look at the integrations of how all of that works too. So let's just go over to the GitHub repo, take a look at that, and then we will then see the output using an Azure Static Web App. So this is the output. I want to show you this first so you can have an idea what we're aiming for. This is the website that gets published. So this is the content that gets generated daily. So you hit previous, you can go to the previous day's joke, and then you hit next, and you can go to the next day's joke. And basically on a timer, GitHub Actions will take some data out of a file and then create this block of text right here. Now, these buttons right here for upvoting and downvoting the joke are backed by an Azure function, and the results are stored in a storage table. So nothing fancy there, but using a static web app with an Azure function is a very common use case. It's a great way to build highly scalable, highly distributed applications. And of course, using storage tables, you have something that's also highly scalable, very fast, and very inexpensive on the back end. So basically, this cost me about a penny a month to actually host. So there's really nothing to this in terms of costs. And I'm basically just using the free tier for static web apps and for functions. So I never really exceed that. So very low costs associated with this kind of development as well. But all this is published by GitHub, and GitHub is really the magic. So let's go take a look at what GitHub is doing so we can better understand how all of this is functioning. So this is the repo behind the site. It's nothing particularly novel. It's just the place that I use to manage the assets as well as all the scripts that this uses. So this is public code. You can go out and review this if you want to, if that's your thing. So definitely check it out if that's if you're interested in this particular project. But at the end of the day, this is really just using two actions to do everything. And that's the two parts of this that I want to talk about. One is to actually generate the new content, and the other one is to publish that new content. So, and that's all, like I said, brokered by these two GitHub actions right here. Now, the one that actually generates the new content is the new joke right here. And this is a pretty straightforward action. And this particular YAML file is nothing that is particularly mind-blowing. It's just a very straightforward action. Runs on a cron very early in the morning, or I can run it using ClickOps if I just want to run it from the UI. And here's the jobs that the one job rather that it runs. It's just a single job with two steps. One is to run a script, and another one is to commit the changes back to the repository. So this script actually creates a file in the repository, and then this actually takes that and puts it as a commit back into the repository and pushes it. So this gives you new data in the repository, and that's how you get new jokes on a daily basis. So the workflow here actually runs a script in the root here, and we can take a look at that script. It's pretty straightforward as well. There's nothing novel about this. It's just a bash script. It's looking at a start date, and that's kind of the seed for the index, for an index. So basically starting at day one, and this is day one. I updated this because I added some new data to it. And then it looks for the date diff, basically how many days have passed since the start date. And then it just basically loops over the file that has the joke data in it until it finds the line that corresponds with whatever day it is since this date right here. And then if that's the day we're on, then it takes that day and then creates the joke from that line in the file. And then it uses the date to create a file name. Basically, that's what this is doing. And then it's using some layout right here. And this is just building a markdown file. So it's just some metadata in the markdown file, layout, title, date, and then here, and then of course the content for the joke right here. So all of that is part of this file, and that creates a file that's in the repository. So if we come back over here to the root, we should be able to see the post that this is creating in this post folder right here. And this is where it stores it. And you can see that it's just generating markdown right here. If you look at the raw, it's going to look like this. That's the raw output that the shell script is generating. So very straightforward, nothing too fancy there. So once it generates the markdown file, everything is set and ready to publish. And that's where we get to the second step. Now, to publish this, I'm using Azure Static Web Apps, as I mentioned, but the workflow that does all this is this particular YAML file. And this is pretty much stock. There's nothing about this that is particularly novel. Basically, it's just taking the folder and using the commit, the push, or cron, or doing it from the UI as a trigger. And from there, it runs a job, build and deploy, and then that just basically uses Jekyll, which is the template engine behind all this, a headless CMS, to publish this to an Azure Static Web App. And that's exactly what this is doing right here. And so it's just using some secrets that I have right here, and it's embedding all that data. These are just the parameters on the Azure Static Web App. But the way that Jekyll works is pretty straightforward. It's a Ruby on Rails based headless CMS, I think is the official name for it, or you can call it Jamstack. I like to call it Jamstack, but it basically uses the template engine to take these markdown files right here that were created by the script and transform them into HTML. And the way it does that is by way of a template engine. And the templates are stored into this layouts folder right here. So these are basically all identical, so I only really need to show you one, but it takes the template right here and it uses directives like this for the fields in this particular HTML. It's just all embedded in the HTML, and it just merges the data in the markdown file into this particular template. And this is how it's able to create that HTML from that markdown file. And once it's done, it's got some links to share stuff on Facebook and other things that are part of this. And then of course using Bootstrap and a couple other things that are available on this, but pretty straightforward in terms of just HTML layout right there. And so the publish will then take all of the posts and right here, merge those into an HTML file. And then that's what gets published to the static web app. And so you can go out here and look at the actions here. If you want to look at this one right here for the Azure Static Web App CI, and then the update website, we can take a look at this one too to show you what that kind of looks like. And this is build and deploy. It's just deploying it to Azure, and you can see this is the part that does all the deployment right here. It's just basically calling out to Azure inside of a Docker container that's using this, and so that's how it's picking up all those files that it creates using Jekyll and then pushing that out to an Azure Static Web App. Now, this one right here is the one that does all the new content generation. You can see that its run is pretty straightforward. It just runs that script, commits and pushes the changes right here using a couple of git commands, and then everything is posted, and then the job is complete. And you can kind of see that has been run as well. So all of that ends up creating a website that looks like this. And so once you have the website created, you're ready to go. And there's a lot more you can do with this beyond what I'm doing here, but this is a fairly straightforward and basic example. And maybe in a future video, I'll do another example where I built basically a client-side shopping cart feature that integrates with PayPal, and that allows you to basically run a store using Jekyll, and uses very much the same kind of layout that you would use in a website, but it allows you to have a static web app and also have that be a part of a shopping cart experience in that static web app. Of course, there's caveats to doing that, but all I have to say is there's a lot of things you can do with this, and this is just one of the things that I've used this for in my tinkering with this particular technology, Azure as well as GitHub Actions and a lot of other things that you can do with this as well. But it's just a fun little project. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little demonstration. If you like this kind of code, certainly pay attention to the channel. I'll probably do some future videos in this realm. I don't know that I'm going to do a series on this, but certainly something to have a look at. And as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully you can get a laugh out of dailydadjokes.net.
If you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button. You can also like this content by clicking on the thumbs up or share this content with your friends, and also comment in the comment section down below. You can also find me online at www.blaze.net or on Twitter at @TheOneMule. And as always, thanks for watching.